So what we're looking at today is a look at the things that are and aren't working anymore when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, a bit of YouTube in there, definitely a bit of LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter as well. Some of these are simpler. Some of these are not quite so simple. Some of them are going to probably make you feel like it's unfair because you may have invested a lot of time in some of these platforms as well. So let's first up look at this, because change is going to happen and it's not always going to be fair. And that's particularly true of social media. Just when you think you've actually solved the problem, you've finally found the way that's going to work for you, then suddenly things change and they're just not working as well as they used to. But how you adapt to those changes is what happens most. Social media is still a fantastic place to go, but it's actually not the place to be for every business. In some cases, like a lady I was talking with last week, who's running some art classes. In her case, social media is just completely a waste of time for her. She wants to run ads. She wants to do a lot of organic stuff on there. And because she hasn't already built much of a following, it's really hard for her to reach anyone without spending a ton of money on ads. And when we look very closely at the kind of stuff that was going on, we also learned that the ads are not necessarily going to be something which is going to work for her either. And to answer Jacinta that question, yes, the recording will be available to you later. It'll be sent to you when it's processed. Probably tomorrow. Usually it takes about 24 hours for them to do that. It'll also be up on the Business Station YouTube page as well. So just look for Business Station on YouTube and it'll be up there in the next 24 hours as well. Speaking about like the areas like that particular woman I was speaking about in Perth, she was actually in Fremantle. And what we came across was thinking that the kind of people she wants to turn up to these art classes and not the kind of people who are going to generally be looking through a lot of stuff on Facebook. They tend to live more alternative lives. They follow a lot more alternative stuff. They go to a lot of cafes. They basically don't spend much time on social media. So she was trying to advertise to a bunch of people that actually weren't even on social media. So we decided some of the best ways to do it were very old school methods of reaching. In this case, we looked at printing out flyers and going around to places around her local area. So to be able to the people who live in the area who are interested in those things are very easy to identify. The other thing was to put notices up in places like cafes, community centers, the kind of places that the people that she likes to work with would likely hang out at. So you wouldn't go to a Dome Cafe because it's not generally where more alternative people are going to be. But if she went to some of the little, like I like to call them hipster cafes, but they're very alternative cafes with a lot of single origin and a lot of story behind their coffee and about their ingredients, they tend to be the places where these people would hang out. So she did try that. And the week before she ran Facebook ads and they didn't work for her, didn't get a single booking. The next week she started putting flyers and letterboxes and posters up in the local cafes and gift shops and crystal shops and all that sort of thing. And she had a full booked out workshop within 4 days. So it's just that social media isn't for everyone. Sometimes it's better off going back and looking at something that's completely old school to try and reach people that are just not in the same place as where you think they might be. So we're going to first off look at Facebook. It's a big kahuna. It's still the biggest in town. It's still the biggest one we're on. Rumors of its demise are very much overrated. It's just not demise. It's actually gained more people in usage every month. It's up to now 2 billion people. Glenda just said the postcards are a great option in the art world. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that's going to get the attention of people who are doing that. She didn't have much time, so postcards weren't an option. But next time, I definitely think if she was running something that had more of an ongoing plan, a way to plan ahead these things happening, yeah, I think postcards would be a great idea as well. They're just really nice. And people like to have them on tabletops and at their desks and that sort of thing. So great spot there, Glenda. So when it comes to Facebook, really the most common thing that's working is Reels. They're the only kind of post that's going to reach beyond your existing followers. So you're not really relating. I don't know if you've noticed lately, but the Facebook feed is less necessarily about just the people you follow. but it's now also starting to move into a way of introducing you to things that you're going to like. Now, for me, the Facebook feed is actually way more relevant than it used to be. I used to get way too many posts from weird groups that I didn't even know I joined. I was getting lots of posts from people who I met 3, 4, 5 years ago, and suddenly it's suggesting me to look at them again. I'm like, I didn't even know I was connected to you. That sort of stuff. Now, what I've noticed that the Facebook feed's doing a lot more now is really interesting videos that I actually have an interest in. And they're in the form of these reels. So pretty much any video on Facebook these days or Instagram is considered a reel. And these reels are the one kind of post that goes beyond the people that you have existing following you. So if you've got, 5,000 people following you and you rarely ever seem to get in front of them and you never seem to get any engagement from them, this is how you can get beyond that, is by producing these videos. Now, reels are very much they're very much like TikToks, almost the same exact thing as TikTok. They're very much about entertainment. They're about being very noticeable. They're things where there's lots of movement. So the minute that it hits someone's feed and starts playing, that they'll immediately be able to see what it's about and get some attention to it. And that's what you want, is getting attention in that first 3 seconds, which we're not very good at as small businesses, to be honest. We're not great at it. Generally, they're creators, they're interesting people. They're like people like the roller skating guy showing on the screen here, people who are cooking in their kitchens, people who are doing interesting lip syncs and very visually exciting stuff. They'll get noticed a lot more than just another talking head. The problem with small businesses is that we're not all that creative. And to be honest, what we're trying to promote isn't really that interesting to the people we're trying to promote it to. We're very invested in it because we're very interested in it because it's our business, but we don't realize that, that the kind of people that we're trying to get to notice us, probably, we're very, very small part of their life. Let's just say, for instance, if you're a gift shop, you don't need a gift shop every week. You certainly don't need it every day. So you're not going to be that interested in following what a gift shop posts every single day of the week. But we, as the gift shop owner, think we're very interesting, think there's all sorts of wonderful things coming to our shop that everyone should want to know about. But the reality is, how many times do you have to buy gifts? It's once every few months, maybe around Christmas. You don't think of gift purchasing as much as what the gift shops think that you do. You tend to go, well, I need to get a gift. I'll go to the shop that I know. And that's where I guess reels can come in, is that they're not just showing that whole, like, come into my shop and see all the wonderful things we've got. Look, we've got these for $39.95. Fantastic. It's more a case of, what are the unexpected delights you're going to find in there, and what's the story behind them, and being consistently able to post that in a way that's interesting, not just another talking head saying, hi, I'm Glenda, come into my shop because I've got lots of new stock. Let's take a look. And it's really uninteresting, really stilted, and a bit weird, to be honest, when you're following it. So if you're not the most charismatic person in your business, it's probably best to get a more charismatic person to do it. In the case of, there's a business in Catherine called Top Dig, a fantastic a tourism experience, which is, to give you a bit of a sense of Aboriginal culture, Aboriginal art, all that kind of thing. And what they've managed to do is to, through the stories of Manuel, the guy who is the kind of the star of the show, he's a very charismatic guy, and he's fun and he's lovely and he's really, really, really good at telling stories. And so what they've been able to do is build this following on TikTok and Reels. And now he's getting sometimes over 1 million views of his stories that he's telling in TikTok. And on Reels, there's very similar numbers, really, really popular in there as well. So as Glenda just asked, do we just post a video to create a Reel? Yeah, you do. You can just post a video. The problem is, though, if it's not an interesting video, it's not going to reach those people. It's still got to be an interesting video. It's still got to be something which is going to grab the attention of people who are either following you or not following you, and they'll want to see more. So if you don't grab them in that first few seconds, rather than just saying, hi, I'm Glenda, it's going to have to be a lot more than that. It's going to have to be a lot more well thought out. You have to think of how you're going to get the attention. I'm not sure what your business does, but you would need to find a way to grab that attention. So Maurice, who's on this this webinar right now, I know a bit about Maurice's business, and in yours, it's like, using the visuals of that surfing lifestyle that I know that's around, and the surfing, the outdoors and the four-wheel driving lifestyle that you've got tons of, using people who are, you're not the face of the business, but your son would be. And then that's the way of getting your son to be able to have lots of imagery of him doing the stuff that people who you would know that they would like. So it's all that sunrises, sunsets, surfing, outdoor lifestyle, bonfires, living that life. Just basically follow anything that Billabong and Chris and Rip Curl seem to do, and you're kind of in the same kind of area there. Like that sort of stuff is what they do. Goats videos, that's awesome, Glenda. Goats, people love goat videos. So great advice. Yeah, people love goats. People love donkeys as well. Donkeys are a really big thing, and there's a particular breed of dog with a really pointy nose that's really taken off for some reason in TikTok and Instagram reels lately. So there's certain themes you can get on there, but reels really are the only thing that's really truly working in there. And in terms of the question that Maurice is asking me right now, which is how many reels to post a week, it's however many works. So start off with 3, 4 of them a week if you can. But if you can't get that much, just start with one and see if it works. See if it actually grabs more attention. You're not going to work from just one reel. You're going to have to do it regularly. So do one a week for a month. See how it goes. You think, you know what, I need a bit more. Let's make 2 a week for the next month, and you find that happy medium eventually where what happens is it's like a full drive going through mud. When it gets stuck in mud, there's a point where all of a sudden a wheel will catch. It'll catch on like a rock or something like that, and suddenly just jump forward. And that's what happens with reels on social media as well, is you do them and you keep doing them, until suddenly something catches. And then the next thing is you're getting thousands of views instead of, a couple of dozen views, or you're getting like, 500,000 views, where usually you would only get 30 or 40 views, because somewhere, somehow, someone has got a big following and they reacted well to it, or reposted it, or did a reaction to it. So then it's suddenly taken off. So that's, I know that, for instance, a particular person I know of he's in Canada, a guy called Yasir Khan. He does public speaking coaching. And his thing that took off was him commenting about other famous people's public speaking techniques. So, for instance, reviewing Obama, reviewing Joe Biden, reviewing the speeches of Donald Trump, and then looking at speeches done and presentations done by people like Steve Jobs, Brene Brown, Oprah Winfrey, and then looking at how they speak and saying, this is what they do that's so right. Here's what they do that didn't quite hit the mark. And what he did, his plan was to do 10 of those a day. He invested, he said he's going to give himself 2 months to do 10 videos a day. So he basically geared all of his time to do these things. And now he's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and he's basically filling up he cannot do any public speaking coaching one-to-one anymore, because he's so busy building his pipeline. And he's now got a team of coaches that they do all the one-to-one stuff based on his principles. But he's now got a business that runs public speaking coaching rather than working with doing the one-to-one coaching himself. He just simply doesn't have the time to do that anymore. Maurice has just asked, do Facebook Reels have more reach than Facebook advertising? Sometimes yes, but mostly no. Facebook ads generally will buy you reach, whereas Reels kind of are going to get you reach, but that reach may not be very targeted and may not be very appropriate for who your customers are. So to have more control about the kind of people you're reaching in front of, ads are definitely that. And that kind of brings me to the next thing, which is groups. Groups are very much prioritized on people's feeds because groups are highly relevant to what people are interested in. So I see a lot of stuff that comes up either from the Kath and Kim Appreciation Society, because I find it quite hilarious the way people carry on in there. But the minute I sort of lost a little bit of interest in it, then suddenly I don't see that anymore. Now, suddenly they'll throw up a couple of posts to me that go, oh yeah, that's right, I follow that group. And the same thing with, say, the Kmart Unhacks and Roasts group, which is basically making fun of people who try to turn Kmart items into things that are more fancy. Now, yes, while I have an interest and I'm generally interested in that, it would take I'm not so engaged with that I'm going to constantly see stuff from that every day. So it's where people are really highly engaged with a group. That's where you know you're onto a winner. So the example would be if you were doing something like a brand. Groups and brands don't work well together because no one really wants to sit there and talk about your brand and your t-shirts or your experience, or they're just not that into it. In the case of like a tourism experience, like we was talking about with Topditch, people will not get that interested in an ongoing discussion in a group about that, because that visiting that particular tourist attraction is a once in a lifetime thing. They'll see it once, they'll never see it again. Whilst they might go, oh, there's a lovely memory of that having happened, there'll be their memory of it, not a post coming from a group. So groups can be very here today, gone tomorrow in terms of the interests that people have. So for a while there, as I was watching on Netflix the Kath and Kim reruns on there, I was very interested in Kath and Kim and discussing it and having fun with that. But now I very rarely ever see it because I'm not actually watching Kath and Kim anymore, and I'm not seeking out Kath and Kim stuff. I'm more closely watching things from Star Trek and Star Wars right now. So I'm seeing tons and tons of stuff from the groups that I've joined about that. And I'm very engaged with those groups as well. The other thing I'm very engaged with is AI. I've joined several AI discussion groups on Facebook, and I see a lot of posts from there because I respond to those posts because I'm into that right now. The problem is that no one's really going to be into you forever. They're going to be into you for a while, and they'll be really interesting. And you might get a bit of discussion in a group, but the problem is that no one really is going to be that engaged with you for all the time. So they'll come and they'll go, and you always need to be feeding new people in all the time, which means basically ads. It's getting ads in front of people. The only guaranteed way to get in front of people is to pay for it on Facebook. They're the only way to get in front of your full following and get reach beyond it with any kind of confidence. In the case of Glenda asking, would the Goat Producers Group be best as a group, not just as a page? Yeah, it can be, if there's going to be conversations in there. So it's more likely to reach the people who are engaged with that group than, say, a page would be, because pages are just not highly prioritized on the feed at all. And they generally tend to be very promotional and not very discussion-based, whereas a group tends to be less promotional, but more about discussions, more about conversations. So would a Goat Producers Group be best as a group? Yeah, it could be. It's just got to not be a place for you to promote you and what you do. It's got to be about the discussions that people want to have with regards to goats or whatever it is you happen to be working in. But a group is not an open blank check to basically just be promoting yourself and your products. That's not what it's about. If you're going to do that, people will they'll come in, they'll go, this is just all promotional, and they'll go again, and they'll never come back. So groups, they are a hard beast to get on top of, because they are not, our tendency as businesses is to get in and promote ourselves and say, hey, I've got a packet of this and I've got a packet of that, and I've got a new stock of this and new stock of that. And that's not really what anyone cares about. When they need the stuff that you do, they'll tend to find the people who sell it, and hopefully they find you. But that's less to do with social media and more to do with something like Google and working on SEO. All right, this other beast, Instagram, the second biggest of the social networks now, 2 billion monthly active users. So tons of people, those kind of numbers like 2 billion, they don't really mean anything to any of us, because we're just a bunch of small businesses. We can't serve 2 billion people. And of those 2 billion people, so few of them are going to be in our zone, in our interest area. Now, once again, Instagram, no surprise, very much the same kind of thing as Facebook. Reels are the only kind of post that's going to reach beyond your existing followers. There's something that happens with Reels that doesn't happen with other kinds of posts. For instance, photos will not reach beyond your initial group of people who follow you, but Reels will. They're treated differently by Instagram. They will be put in front of the global feed, so that if there's something that's interesting that follows trends, like a certain kind of music or certain kind of a way of producing, or if it's a dancing and all that sort of stuff, it will be all about basically again getting the attention out there on the bigger, wider world. Now, is what you're going to do going to involve very, very attractive people dancing, people putting on makeup and cross-dressing? Is it going to be superheroes and superhero outfits who are obviously hot and followed by people who are basically, following them because they're producing thirst trap videos? Look, probably not. You're probably not going to do any of those things. So the kind of reels you're probably likely to do is talking to screen about something, showing people, a bit about your day. There's certain things that will work and not work when it comes to these kind of reels. just being a talking head, unless you're already popular and already have a great following, there's nothing interesting about a talking head on a video. In the case of Trevor Bell over here on the right, he has done a couple of talking head videos, but that's because he's already got 226,000 followers. He's already getting 30 to 40,000 people seeing his stuff in his posts. So he's already got a massive following that he's working with. So doing the occasional talking head to video, it'll do great for him, but it's probably not going to work really well for you. It's just like, remember back when we were doing live videos about 2015 when they came out? We're doing all these live videos, and initially it was really fun. People were posting live videos from concerts and from places they were seeing, but then the marketers arrived, all the business owners arrived, and all we did was just talking head, which is like, oh, I've got to launch this week, I'm going to be able to sell this, and you're going to get it this price if you only get it now. And it became just basically a hovel for the network marketers and for the small businesses who are desperate to sell some stuff that nobody seemed to be interested in. So it kind of ruined live video, and live video went from being very high priority on the feed to basically being the joke that it is now. Basically, it's all about, if you want to watch live video now, it's just all about people who are selling network marketing schemes. And that's pretty much the only people that are on there. Much the same goes for things like Clubhouse. If you've got on that trend, it's now full of people just trying to sell things. And of course, nobody wants to be sold to. So there's very little, if any, audience available there now. So Reels, same thing on Instagram as they are on Facebook. Ads, again, are the only way to get in front of your full following. So you use the Facebook ads platform to get in front of people on Instagram. Now, people are a lot more forgiving about ads that are openly selling because they don't expect anything else from an ad. So if they're really interested and they've been really well matched by the algorithm that's saying this person is really into this subject, you are producing an ad about this subject, therefore I'll put it in front of that person. That's what Facebook and Instagram are very good at with their ads platforms. So spending $150 a month on Facebook and Instagram ads can very much be worth it just to get in front of the right kind of people, rather than just trying to produce all these posts constantly that are just not reaching anyone. Now, a video ad will always do better than just a static Canva template ad. So just be aware that when you're doing anything on Facebook or Instagram, it's all about video these days. Pretty much nothing else is going to do very well. Pretty photos are one thing, but a pretty photo that actually has movement and light and color and some kind of something that's going to attract you is going to go better. The most viewed stuff is still photos on Instagram. But you still will generally reach more people per post than you with a video than what you will with just a photo or a graphic. Camille just asked, can you use an Instagram reel as a Facebook ad? Yeah, you can. It's just that instead of using it as a reel, you sort of download the video and then upload that as an ad. In fact, quite a lot of ads on Facebook and Instagram now are in the reels format. So a lot of that sort of short, quick cut from scene to scene to scene. You go for 2 seconds, scene change, 2 seconds, scene change. That's all the same kind of things that work for getting attention in reels, work really good for getting attention in ads as well. There's a guy called Harrison Cantel who is a video guy, and I follow him on LinkedIn. And one of the things he does is presents really simple ways for people to be able to do those high impact, but talking to camera style videos that are not boring. And he's very, very good at it, using, quite interesting color backgrounds. He'll use very clear descriptions of things and captions. Because of the way he presents himself, and he cuts very much every 3 seconds, cuts to a different scene, or use a lot of movement coming in, coming back again. All those kind of things that have that movement are really good for getting engagement. So what works for ads generally works for organic as well. So if you have, say, for instance, an Instagram reel, it's not doing too bad. You've had about 200 views of it, and you're going, geez, that's actually doing all right. Boosting that as an ad could be a great idea, because you've already got some social proof and some momentum with that already working. Organic reach pretty much has become very difficult for small businesses to achieve on Instagram. And that's the thing. It's like, it's not really the way to reach a lot of people. Now, the reels are one way to do it, but it's still a hard slog. Like I said, it took Yassir like 10 videos a day before finally something caught on. And now he doesn't have to do 10 a day anymore because he's got the momentum already. So once he got that momentum, he was then able to pull back to 1 or 2 a day, to the point now where he's only maybe doing 1 a day for 5 days a week. And that's enough for him. He's bringing in enough of a pipeline because he's got enough of a following, and he's got people who expect, the stuff that he talks about, they expect to hear about the stuff that he's talking about, and it's part of their routine. They look forward to the Yasir Khan video every single day. Bruce just asked how long to run an advertisement before taking it down if it's not performing. Oh, look, this is how long's a piece? How long's a piece of string in this case? It's going to be different in every single situation. What I would always do is basically run more than one ad at one time. So you always run at least 2, run them against each other. One of them will do better than the other one. So you get rid of the one that's not performing and then put a new one in place and then compete it against the one that is. And at some point you're going to hit like the one that's going really well is going to stop performing that as well. So you have another one that will pick up the slack. So it's, and what you want to get out of the ads. So basically it's just sales, for instance. You've got to measure that and go, okay, well, I've been running this for 2 months. I've had 20,000 views. I've had 51 clicks through to the website and no one's bought a single thing. You got to go, well, maybe the problem isn't the ad. It seems to be delivering people to the website. Maybe it's the website. Maybe it's the product. Maybe people just look at the product. Maybe people just don't like the product. It could be that as well. Sometimes there's products that just don't work, no matter how close we are to them or how important they are to us. Nobody wants it. And that's fine too. That's when you got to learn and go, okay, well, if no one wants this, I need to pivot to something else that people might want. So generally when it comes to using ads, use boosts for no more than 2 weeks. They work well for specials, for limited edition things that like you just want to get out to a not particularly targeted audience, but you just need to get a message out really quickly. Very good for workshops, very good for things where that you're booking time. Not so good for products that you want to sell, so actual physical products. Physical products do better with an ad campaign, usually going out to a broader audience, and then you retarget that broader audience with a specific ad that says, hey, we know you've shown us that you're really into this thing, so here's what we can do. Here's our special. Here's our full range. Here's something you may not have seen in our original ad. So you're referring to the fact that they've already seen you. They already know who you are, but now you're showing them a deeper side of you, more reasons why they might like you. Camille just asked if there's more reels a day, do you get more reach? Not necessarily. In the case of Yasir's case, he just was producing more of them a day just to find what would work. And eventually something did work. And it was a video about Steve Jobs, about him commenting on why Steve Jobs was such a good speaker and how he was able to captivate an audience so well. And that one went to get over 2 million views. And he went, okay, now I've found my thing. I've got to talk about much more famous, well-known people who are known for speaking. And that seems to get in the crowd. And of course, he's done that. He'll pick out people who are, like, for instance, when I can't remember her name, but the previous Prime Minister of Britain, after Boris Johnson, was a woman there for a while, and she was a very, very dull person and wasn't very exciting to listen to. So he did one on her because she had just been made the Prime Minister. When Rishi Sunak became the Prime Minister of Britain, he immediately jumped on that. So he tied in his reviews of the way people speak with the news, people who were speaking very, very openly around the world. And that really got him a lot of momentum. So initially, yeah, he was doing 10 a day. But now he's not doing 10 a day. He's more likely to be doing 1 a day over 5 days a week. So he had to work hard to get the initial momentum and to get that initial reach. But once he hit it and he knew what his type of production would be that would work, then he only needed to do 1 a day. So that's what he did. That may or may not work for you. Everyone's different. The kind of stuff that's working really well in Reels is kind of those behind the scenes, how I make the things I make. So think about people who make amazing creations out of chocolate. There's one of those that I follow all the time on Instagram and in TikTok as well, where it's some of my favorite videos of this guy who makes these incredible creations. I saw one the other day was a steam engine. He made a steam engine that actually turned and actually made noises and everything, but was made out of chocolate. It was incredible. So it's just those kind of things. Whoops, go back a bit. went way too far. I just leaned on my keyboard, and suddenly everything just went crazy. But it's that kind of how I make the things I make. So, for instance, how we shoot, like it could be how our t-shirts are made, how we clean out a caravan site after people have vacated, how we feed the animals that come up to the fence of the caravan park every week. Those sort of things, like a glimpse into a world that people wouldn't otherwise know. And the example would be from Glenda before, goats. What you don't know about goats, the interesting personality traits of the goats that we have. That kind of stuff. One of the more interesting guys on TikTok I watch is called Mallyboy, and he's a guy who has an alpaca called Patrick, and it's just him basically constantly yelling at Patrick because Patrick keeps getting in with the sheep and keeps getting into the fields he shouldn't get into, and is annoying the sheep, and he's constantly yelling, "Patrick, get out of there!" And it's just it's a look into a life I otherwise wouldn't know. Another interesting one I've seen is the day in the life of me, which is basically someone who would have a very normal job. Say, for instance, they might be working in admin support for the government. And they say, okay, well, this is the day, you thought my job might be boring. Well, this is the day in the life of what I have to get up to. And so first of all, I've got to make sure I bring in the coffee for the boss because they want to get the coffee, bring the coffee in, but then everyone else wants a coffee. So I end up, having to basically dodge all the people who are trying to get a coffee off me. Around about morning tea time, rather than going and getting coffee, what we tend to do is just take a break outside. And I've done to have a chat outside with some really interesting people. Then when it's back to work, I'm doing a bit of filing, and that's probably not that interesting, but it's like a little, 60-second to 90-second look at the little things you do in your day. Now, you may think that your day is kind of boring and there's nothing really interesting about what you do, but I can guarantee you that what you do in your day is completely foreign to what other people do. Yesterday, I was training a bunch of people from cattle stations, the big giant cattle stations in the outback. Yeah, these are young people who are working on cattle stations, and it's teaching them how to do public speaking, how to network. And their greatest strength was in the things that they do every day that they think are just boring and just everyday things. It's like, no, you actually will stand in front of 1,500 head of cattle at one stage. Imagine what that view would be like, standing on the top rail of the holding yard and just looking out over a sea of cattle. That's not something that you and I, as people in the city, would see every day. All those little things that for instance, they have to go and do a tick treatment for some cattle. Those kind of things are very foreign to most of us who never really see that, and it becomes fascinating. We become really. It's like how we used to watch that show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous back in the 1970s and 80s, and the whole idea was you take a peek inside the lifestyles of very famous people with lots of money, and we look at their houses and their boats and the kind of holidays they take, and we'd be looking, living vicariously through their richness. So it's the same kind of thing, except these days we're not just fascinated with the rich, even though the news.com.au doesn't seem to have a day that goes by without talking about Harry and Meghan, but we're very fascinated with just everyday people who do things very differently than what we do. I look into, for instance, into the life of a digital marketer, and she has quite an interesting day, and it's not as dull as I thought it would be. I know my digital marketing days are quite dull, but she's got a really interesting day. She's saying, first I did this, then I went to this. I had to go and learn how to do this because I didn't know how to do it, which meant an hour of looking on YouTube to try and find the answers for it. Then I finally went out for a coffee because I thought, I'm sick of today. I need a break. But then I realized I can't take too long a break, so I had to get back and look at some analytics. And so I take a look inside the life of another person who's doing something that I may not actually do. And then there's what I do and how it relates to something topical. So that's a lot like Yasir Khan, the guy who's the public speaking coach I was talking about. He will do, this is, I'm reviewing someone's public speaking, and this is a person you've probably seen in the news today because of of this particular event. And so he'll tie into that, because then we'll have people notice it because they go, oh, that's a photo of Rishi Sunak from the Prime Minister of Britain, or it's a photo of Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia. So therefore, oh, that might be relevant to something I've seen in the news today. I'm interested in seeing what that is. Right, so, excuse me, YouTube. YouTube is a bit of a different beast, but it's got the same disease as Facebook and Instagram has. Short format video. They call them shorts. So what we call Reels over on Facebook and Instagram, they're called Shorts on YouTube. They're basically the exact same thing as TikTok or short form videos on any platform. They're currently getting really big views, and there's a whole lot of the creators who are quite famous on things like Instagram and TikTok that are actually coming over to YouTube, because now YouTube is actually paying for like very highly viewed material, not just in normal YouTube, but in these shorts as well. So if you get lots and lots and lots and lots of reach, and you get lots and lots and lots and lots of views, you can be then monetized and make money from YouTube, basically a share of the ad revenue they're playing between or during those shorts. So really interesting trend that's occurring. I guess for you then, say, what can I do on these shorts? Well, all the same things you do on Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, and TikTok. All the same stuff goes in there. The same stuff that's interesting on Instagram is going to be interesting in Reels and in Shorts as well. I had a little play with Shorts late last year when I was doing some short format video, and I was getting way more views on YouTube Shorts than I was getting in my actual big YouTube videos. I get 30, 40 views on a workshop video, but I do the short, which is like a bit of a summary of it, and I get 500, 600 to 1,500 different views for it. So it was much easier to get that viewership on Shorts than what it was in the main section of YouTube. Now, the sort of stuff you want to do on YouTube to get some sort of attention is choosing a style of video and sticking to it. This is Charlotte Dobre. She used to work with a group of people called IO, and they were basically like Inside Out. They were looking at celebrity gossip, especially the gossip involved with famous YouTubers and famous online celebrities. No one that you and I would have heard of, beauty influencers and all the drama that happens with those as well. So that is, she would actually just do reactions to that and basically talking about it. Okay, here's a bit of a drama taken from one of their videos. Then she'd make a comment on it. So she does what called reaction videos. So she does a lot of reaction videos around stars, around a whole bunch of videos she'll pick up on TikTok or YouTube where people are doing silly things, and she'll do a theme, and everything's about her basically being funny and goofy and kind of cute and talking about the crazy things that the world of people seem to get up to. So that's a style that she does and she's stuck to. Another style could be, for instance, the deep knowledge style, where you go into a great deal of knowledge. Now, this is actually a little bit of a testament to the kind of videos I watch on YouTube. So, for instance, in the Mandalorian Star Wars TV show, there's a guy saying basically that the baby Yoda character, Grogu, said, "This is the way," as his baby's first words. So there's that sort of thing going on. And I like watching that because I'm really into Star Wars and Star Trek and all those science fiction things. So it comes up a lot and I'll watch a lot of those things. This is only a 27-second video, so it's a short. But over here is a 9-minute 15 one, which is a deep dive into certain ChatGPT prompts that help you to write using AI tools a lot better. So for instance, I watch a lot of that stuff, so it comes up a lot for me. I look at that deep knowledge and go, yes, I'm definitely interested in learning more about that. I'm fascinated with Elon Musk. I think he's an absolute idiot, and I think he's an absolute fool. But at some point, he's what this guy's saying, the world's smartest idiot. And so I just tend to follow these deep dives into subjects. So that kind of stuff could be something you can produce. It all comes down to time. And what I think Glenda's saying, how do you get us older people to take decent videos? And Glenda's just like learning any new trick or any new thing. You've just got to start doing it and get practice at it. And then use, watch instructional videos on things like YouTube. And there's people like, for instance, Liam on this Digital Solutions program, who does the Don't Dance for Likes on TikTok tutorials in the same format. So he's very good at sort of making it as easy as possible. Like I said, there was a guy who I follow called Harrison Cantel. So Harrison with a K for Cantel. He is very, very good as well at simply explaining how to make these videos and how you don't need lots and lots of stuff and expensive equipment. Your smartphone's probably good enough to be able to do it. It's a case of going, what will be interesting, and then creating a bit of a script around that. So you don't just like pull out your phone and start filming, because you're going to spend so much time doing all that. Camille's just asked, can Reels be quietly effective rather than loud? I think you're talking about how people like get very excited, very like, oh my God, I've got this amazing thing and I want to show you, let's go. and they're YouTubers that are currently like constantly yelling at you, yeah, they can be quietly effective rather than loud in the way that they just have to be noticeable. So if they get noticed, and this notice doesn't have to be a sound, it can be just the visual. So it could be popping in very quickly. Hey, I've got this fantastic thing to show you. Now, one of the examples are with a couple of guys I follow on Instagram who like fashion guys, and they show this is what I'm going to wear. And there's this one guy who's Irish. His name is, trying to remember it now, but it's he has this little thing where he goes, and then he just jumps. That's his thing to get your attention. Then he leans in close to the camera and says, "It's Thursday. Let's get dressed." And he's very calm about it. He's very quiet about it. He'll show you trousers, belt, a shirt, and using this fragrance, which smells like a woody walk through a Scandinavian forest. And he's very, very calm and gentle about it. So he's not very loud, but he's very consistent in the way he does his two little snaps. He snap, snap, and then he's clap, and then leans in really close. And that's the way he starts it. So he's got his way of starting it. Selling artworks, well, I guess. How do artworks sell elsewhere? Have you seen many people selling artworks on Reels? It may be that artworks just don't sell well on Reels, or it could be that the artwork, the thing behind the artwork is maybe not the artwork itself, but the process it took to make that artwork, and recording those parts of it, saying this is how it began. It could be something like, this is how it started, and you've got a few streaks of paint everywhere on the canvas, and at the end of it, you're going, and this is how it's going, where you present what it actually is at the end. So that those kind of things, a lot of people who do a lot of sketching and drawing and artwork showing the process, or at least jump cutting from, here's how it started. About 15 minutes in, this is where I got to. And then when I got to about 45 minutes, then I threw it out and started again. And then 3 hours later, I got to this point. 9 hours later, yes, 9 hours later, this is the result. And then show you the painting. So that kind of thing is probably better than just simply going, hi, I've got an artwork. It's really pretty. Please buy it. Because that's not really going to get anyone's attention. The artwork itself is as much about the story of the artwork, the process of making the artwork, as it is about the end product and how that fits in someone's home. LinkedIn is our next cab off the rank. Now, LinkedIn is it's like TikTok. It's one of the few places where organic reach is still very much achievable. I get a lot of organic reach on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn isn't for everyone, and it isn't for every kind of product or service. It's very much very good for people who are producing professional services rather than selling individual items. That said, I've seen a lot of coverage of some Indigenous artists who are selling some things in there. I'm trying to remember their names. I know there's one called Shanae Sutton, I think her name is, and she's a large format modern Aboriginal artist who does really great work on there and seems to get some very good coverage. But she's less about trying to sell her artworks and more about getting commissions from governments and from corporates. In this case, telling personal stories and sharing a very well-considered opinion seems to go really well on LinkedIn. This is the basis of everything I do on LinkedIn. It's basically I tell personal stories. So yesterday this morning I shared a post about the workshop I did with the NT Cattlemen's Association youth yesterday. So it was an interesting experience for me. So I normally wouldn't be around people who grew up in cattle stations. They're not usually people I cross paths with. So I didn't really have an instant rapport with them to go, yeah, I get you. I get how you lived. That's fantastic. For me, it was like I had to shut up and just let them tell their stories. And the process of that was to basically find how to help them to become better public speakers and networkers. So it was a different experience than I expected. And I shared that experience, but I didn't just say, here's another photo of a bunch of people in a workshop that we went to on LinkedIn. I went on there, I actually made fun of it and said, yeah, a photo of a workshop on LinkedIn, groundbreaking, right? But what was groundbreaking was that, and then I told the story about how my expectations were changed and challenged, and I was working with people who come from a life that I've never lived and places that I've never heard of. So it was an interesting learning experience for me as much as it was for them. And the end of it was that we were able to, because of what we found in common with each other, I was able to show them how to bring themselves out of their shell to become really effective speakers. And one of them ended up getting a job out of the whole experience as well, which was a fantastic story. Those stories, the personal stories in behind the corporate antics of our lives as much more interesting than just going, hey, we got 3 new clients this week, celebrate with us. In this case, Ash Rathod, he's got an incredible personal story. His skin started to change with vitiligo. He started to like get that sort of skin bleaching effect, where parts of his hands, parts of his face, and he had to learn to live with that. And what it initially did, it absolutely ruined his life, and he didn't even want to leave the house. He was so depressed and he couldn't work. And then eventually he found his voice and he found his way of being able to work with that. And it became very much part of his personal brand. And hearing his story always as a humbling reminder that no matter how bad we're going, someone else has certainly got some greater challenges than we do. He also shares some very well-considered opinions. Another person I follow is Amelia Sordell. She's a hard-ass, badass, strong, independent, very successful young woman who runs a creative agency in London. And she is bold, she's brash, she's unapologetic, she's beautiful, and she's not afraid to show it. And she's got lots of opinions, but they are very well-considered opinions. She doesn't just put out opinions without being able to back them. She's able to back those opinions as well. So that kind of storytelling on LinkedIn works really well, as does newsletters. So for instance, those email newsletters that you might have, I've got one. I've got about 11,000 people who subscribe to my one, through email. And I've got another 1,425 people who subscribe to it through LinkedIn. They actually get notified through LinkedIn when I've got a new edition of it. So for instance, I got, maybe, what was it about? It's not actually saying how many, but I got 8 comments and 14 other people who are liking it. And that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with 8 comments coming on there. It eventually got, I think, to about 530 people, the post itself. But the newsletter gets in front of 1,425 people every single week on LinkedIn, which you think about a newsletter. Newsletters aren't that interesting. So I treat them like an extended long format of a written social media post. So they all work in what's called creator mode. So everyone who's on LinkedIn is allowed to make themselves a creator. It allows you to feature content on your profile. It allows you to have this newsletter, and then you're able to reach a lot more people because you're producing interesting content. Like I said earlier, LinkedIn is one of the few platforms that is still getting great reach when it comes to posting free stuff, not paying for ads, for instance. It's also the one place where video isn't doing that well. So video is not a huge thing on LinkedIn, and the video people seem to complain about that a lot. And I look at it and go, thank God there's one place we can go to where we don't have to make these funny short format videos. Steve is a mindfulness consultant, and he is really, really good at linking together a story with a photo of himself. So he'll show a photo of himself, and then he'll tell a story about, that's a teaching topic about mindfulness and meditation. So he's someone who does this very well. The use of photos of yourself, selfies basically, still works really well on LinkedIn. Surprisingly, I thought it wouldn't. I pulled back on selfies for a while, and my engagement dropped. I put the selfies back in, and my engagement climbed again. So there's lots of, there's lots of, if you hear my throat's not at full power, so I get very husky as I talk more and more. But there's tons of ways that you can use photos of yourself, and maybe photos of artwork as well, to be able to share through a little bit more information that will get through to a whole lot more people on LinkedIn. Just be aware though, people on LinkedIn are generally not looking to go shopping. They're looking to connect. Document carousel. So basically it's like, if I was on LinkedIn and I clicked on the right-hand side of this document, it would then go to the next page. So what people have started to do is make these what they call like carousels, just like carousels that are on Instagram or Facebook that you can click on it and go to the next one, the next one, the next one. But in this case, they tend to be telling a story. This one's got 21 pages about his 5-step strategy for making a company newsletter. So instead of producing it as 5 steps on a list, he's made it into something visual, something more artistic. Now, there's someone who I know of in Brisbane, Sharon Tancred, who is producing these artworks that are used in as large format wall coverings for printing onto shower screens and as like a non see-through shower glass. Also being used in a dementia capacity in nursing homes, where they'll put up what they call they're kind of like a view out, so people don't feel that they're locked in to some kind of institution, because they can see these interesting views through these pretend windows that show a scene that's quite abstract, but in the dementia affected mind, those things look like it could be a peaceful pond or a beautiful forest or a beach scene or something like that. So that's very useful to produce to show people artworks, to show people something visual through here. TikTok, and we're coming to the end of this. TikTok is very much about trends. So what is trending on TikTok? And you need to use TikTok to know what's trending, because you'll notice it. Popular songs right now, people are taking pieces of popular songs and adding them to their videos. People will actually search for videos that are playing and using a particular kind of song. Now, the problem I've got with TikTok, by and large, is that I'm yet to see any small businesses that are actually doing TikTok videos into people coming into their stores or buying their stuff. I'm yet to see any strong evidence that small businesses are doing very well out of this. There is like one or two, places that do maybe like single origin coffee, or they might be doing something which is something they can sell physically, which is very trendy and very much tied into the culture of what TikTok's like. It's quirky, that kind of thing. But people who are just trying to sell a product or book their time for a service, I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. In the only case I've seen recently is that guy Yasir Khan, who sold out so many one-to-one coaching services for learning how to do public speaking. He had to hire people very quickly to do the coaching for him, because he could no longer do it himself. What his business then came about is building pipelines and teaching other people about how to build a service business that works itself by using things like TikTok videos. So I'm not 100% convinced that you as small businesses are going to make a really good go of TikTok, because let's face it, nobody is on TikTok to hear about your small business. They're there to be entertained. If you can't entertain them, just get off TikTok. Don't even try. It's just not a place for people who can't be entertaining and can't be high impact. Or like Camille was asking before, can Reels be quietly effective rather than loud on TikTok? You can't be quietly effective. You have to be loud. You have to be brash. You have to be noticeable. You have to be trendy. And it feels like everyone has to be young and beautiful. And I'm past that. I'm not really doing anything on TikTok these days, apart from just making sure I watch enough of it to understand what it is. But to be honest, as a small business owner myself, TikTok is not where I think my work is going to go best. LinkedIn is actually the best place for me. And finally, Twitter, if anyone even uses it. It's one of those platforms which a lot of small businesses cannot really find a place for themselves on there. TikTok's aggressive. It can be nasty. It's full of like middle-aged and aging white men who are angry about everything. So I tend to not spend much time on there, but I have had a little bit of success on TikTok lately by basically getting Twitter Blue and spending $13 a month to get some reach, because if you don't have it, you basically won't get any reach. Elon Musk has made sure of that. You need to follow lots of people and comment on lots of stuff and build a following of your own. I don't have a lot of a following on Twitter. What I use Twitter as is a way to introduce myself to people that normally wouldn't ever come across me. So it's something which I have to very, very dutifully go in and follow people and comment on people's stuff and joining conversations where I feel safe to join in those conversations. It's a year project. I've only just started doing it in the last 2 months. So I'm spending a year. I'm trying to build a following. It isn't working very well yet, but I've had at least some inquiries come through from the few people I have actually been able to connect with. So if in a year's time I haven't built a significant following that's leading to sales and bookings, then I'll probably give up and move on from it as well. But again, posting interesting short form content. I'm not talking about video. Video doesn't work that well on Twitter, to be honest. It's more about short format written material. So something that fits into the 248 character limit, that you can tell a story really quickly that will get people interested. Again, though, you need to build the following. You can't just post and hope they'll come. They're not going to magically put you in front of people. You've got to build that following, which means going and following other people so they become interested in you, and so on and so forth.